Well, it's time to fix up this manual bilge pump. So I wish I would have taken pictures before, but all of this was completely filled with dirt dauber nests. If you're not from the south, you don't know what that is. It's just basically mud. Imagine this whole thing just full of mud. I mean, all the way even up underneath here. It was quite the process. So one of the things that's wrong with my bilge pump is that this handle is missing. It apparently broke off, and the mechanism that made it stick onto here or hold onto here was even gone. So even though it looks like everything works, I don't think it's ever been serviced. So I bought off of West Marine. I bought this guy right here, and it is for the Guzzler pump 500, and I think the 400 series too. Actually, yeah, G500 H500V. Now on here, what I notice is if you look at yours, it may just have a a label like that on it. So on the underneath is where you'll find, see, this says 500. It's upside down, but that's 500. So that's how I knew which one it was. I mean, you can kind of tell by your pictures. So in here I have the diaphragm, which is going to be replaced in this bottom section here, and then I have these two flaps. There's two of these, see? And I'll take off this section right here, and you can kind of see, maybe, it's too dark, that one will go in here, and then one will go in here. So one of them goes, like this to let water through, and then water through without letting water come back out into the bilge, basically. All right, so the first thing I'm doing is taking off all of these bunch of screws. So one thing to notice if you do this is the screws that go in line with the plumbing will not have a nut, but the others do. So just make sure you pay attention to the fact that you're going to have a nut and a screw for those, and you'll have two just regular ones. So I'm going to go ahead and take those off real quick, and I'll be back in just a minute. Now that I have those off, you can just pick it up and let's see what we got here. All right, so I think I can probably leave this attached, but it looks like I could probably take this off, just kind of give it a good cleaning. And then here's that diaphragm I need to change. It looks like I need to pull that bolt off right there. So I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning, pull that bolt off, and I'll show you what I find. All right, well, that was pretty simple. So this guy, one big guy comes out. I'll set him to the side. This I'm going to take and clean it up. I did do a quick cleanup on that. Looks pretty nice. Give it a little bit of time to dry now, so that will sit right back on top of there. This is our old diaphragm. No need to clean that up. I'll throw that away. And so this one will go sitting on top of here. But first I am going to go ahead and clean this up as well on both sides. And so this, the large kind of screw that we pulled out of there, that connects right here, So, and that's what pulls the diaphragm down and up and down and up. All right, so let me get some of this here cleaned up and start getting it put back together. And I think this is going to be a pretty simple project. Now we'll move on to our little flap pieces. All right, everything is cleaned up now. So a couple things I want to make sure that you think about as you're doing this. So like I said, I took the whole thing apart and I cleaned it. There is one side of this, and sometimes when you take things apart and you take it over to the sink and you clean it up and you come back over here, you're like, oh crap, which side goes up, which side goes down? The side that has a little bit of a rim to it goes down. All right, the other thing you can do is back up the video a little bit and watch how I took it apart. So that's going to go down. This diaphragm is going to sit on top. This is going to sit on top of the diaphragm. I'm going to have to, I need to get something for my camera so I can hold it in place. And then, because this is going to go through, and remember that little plunger. So let's see if I can do this with one hand. So we're take it apart real quick. So you have to remember this little plunger piece this is where the other part of that screw goes into. So now I need to put this back on here, put this on here, and this on here, and then I'll just have to take both hands and hold those together and get that screw in. So let's see if I can get that put together. All right, so I do have it put back together. Really was not that painful, so you can see how that plunger sits up underneath there. It is screwed in. I just took and hand tightened that with a, just a flat screwdriver. So now we're going to take this entire piece and turn it over and set it back on top. We'll figure out how that goes together. So you'll notice that I kept all my screws in the spots that they need to go, all the way around. And that way I don't have to worry about that. So this should sit right on top of here. And I will get that flange all lined up because it has holes too. So let's make sure we line that flange up and then with the top up, and then I'll put those screws back in. All right, we got that done. Pretty easy peasy actually. So I would strongly suggest that you do one of these first and not completely tighten it. Just get it down enough that you can tell that it's got a few threads, caught, and then do the other side first because these are the hardest ones to get lined up and to find that pre-threaded hole that's in there. And then when you're doing all of these that have the nut on the back, what's great is you don't even need to hold something on the back. They did a great job. They put these little square pieces around it so that once the nut gets up into that little hole, it holds itself in place and you can tighten it down. So the other thing I strongly suggest is, you do this one, you do this one. Again, you don't tighten them down. You just maybe halfway, down to where they're still loose, but you have a little bit of play. And then I did, I think I did this one. Again, left it loose. I did this one, left it loose. And then I started to tighten them down and I did this one. And where's it? That one right there. All right, so now it is time to take these apart. So I need to take this one apart and this one apart. I'll probably do them one at a time so I don't accidentally get things put back together, possibly incorrectly. It doesn't look like these have any kind of marking of inlet or outlet, so when I pull the other one out, it will show me which direction it needs to go and I will follow that. All right, let's do it. All right, we got that done. Pretty easy peasy actually. So I would strongly suggest that you do one of these first and not completely tighten it. Just get it down enough that you can tell that it's got a few threads, caught, and then do the other side first because these are the hardest ones to get lined up and to find that pre-threaded hole that's in there. And then when you're doing all of these that have the nut on the back, what's great is you don't even need to hold something on the back. They did a great job. They put these little square pieces around it so that once the nut gets up into that little hole, it holds itself in place and you can tighten it down. So the other thing I strongly suggest is, you do this one, you do this one. Again, you don't tighten them down. You just maybe halfway, down to where they're still loose, but you have a little bit of play. And then I did, I think I did this one. Again, left it loose. I did this one, left it loose. And then I started to tighten them down and I did this one. And where's it? That one right there. All right, so now it is time to take these apart. So I need to take this one apart and this one apart. I'll probably do them one at a time so I don't accidentally get things put back together, possibly incorrectly. It doesn't look like these have any kind of marking of inlet or outlet, so when I pull the other one out, it will show me which direction it needs to go and I will follow that. All right, let's do it. All right, well, I have it off and see it is just kind of the same thing. It's every single one of the screws here have a nut on them, and it kind of did the same thing. See if we can get back in there and see where you have the square behind it so you don't have to worry about holding it in place when we get there. So this is what came off. It was oriented like this, so I can see, oops. It was oriented like that. And so when I take it off, I'll set it down and I'll pull this off, and I gotta tell you something, it stinks. And I'm sure it's just, lake water or whatever that's gotten really ugly. So let's see if I pull that off like this, then it shows me exactly how that should go back on. So I can set this aside and put this on. All right, so I need to mark this so that I know exactly which way it goes up. It may not matter, but I don't want to take a chance. So I'm going to take and clean this up first, and then I'm going to put my new unit on and just put it back together. All right, so I'm doing the same thing to the other side. What I did was I just took a Sharpie and I put a little dot on it so that I knew where the bottom was. You can kind of see now with that light just how dirty they are inside. So I'm going to take it out and clean it just like I did the other one. So I've got all the screws and nuts off. See, that'll just get cleaned up. I will pull this off, and this one, we need to remember that the flap goes at the bottom. All right, so we're at the other side. So just let's kind of give you a feel for seeing so much cleaner it is. I kind of went through and I cleaned in there as well. I figured, you know, if I got it taken apart, and then what I've done is let things set for a little bit so that it dries. I mean, I dry it off, but then I just want everything to seal really well. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, put my new flap in. So it's going to go, remember, upside down and in here. And then put all those screws in. Okay, see you in a bit. All right, so we are back at the boat, and we have our fixed Guzzler, our manual bilge pump, and this is actually where it goes. I just covered it with plastic since this took a few days to get the parts in. So the next thing we need to do is we have this piece that goes right on here on the outside, because all of this is going to go on the, you know, underneath of this. So what I'll do is, I'm sitting on the lazarette now, but this, I'll take this off so that I can have access to that. That's why I didn't seal it yet. And then when I get it all hooked up to the hoses, I'll show you that in a minute. I can at least reach in there and hold it behind, and because the long bolts or screws go in from the front. All right, so this piece goes like this. I'm actually going to still clean it up. I think I'm going to take and maybe even put a little paint on it just to kind of refresh it, make it look nicer. So I'm going to sand it down, clean the back. It's all pretty, you know, dirty and stuff. And then underneath this piece is just, I mean, it'll work just like it is, but what they had in before was this piece of rubber, and it's pretty nappy looking now, and it was cut pretty weird, and my guess is it's just dry rotted. I mean, you could tell. So what I did was I went to Lowe's down here, and I found in the like faucet area, plumbing area, I found this piece of rubber. I mean, it's not black, but that doesn't matter. So it's the same thickness as this rubber right here. So I'm going to take and cut out a piece that matches, you know, the back of this, that will sit kind of right inside of here. And then I can glue that in place so that it stays in place. And then that way, when the handle goes in, which I bought something to make myself a new handle. When the handle goes in, I will cut a slit down it as well. And hopefully it'll just kind of help keep, well, some rain out. I know that some rain can get in there, but it'll keep, if we have a deluge, it'll keep it from getting too awfully wet in there. I know it's supposed to handle water and stuff, but why not protect it as much as we can? And hopefully keep out some of the wasp and stuff. I now know that this seems to be a hotbed for our dirt daubers, so I'll need to open that up probably a couple of times a year during dirt dauber season and just make sure it's not getting filled up with dirt dauber nest. All right, so I have a little bit of a project here. I'm going to clean and paint this guy up. I'll let you know what all happens there. I got some acetone so I can get all the dirt and grime off of it, and then like I said, I'm going to sand it, and then I'll do a little bit of flat black spray paint on there just to make it look nice again. And then I'm going to attempt to recreate this out of this so that I can match this pattern right here. So let's see how good I am at cutting that. All right, see you on the other side. All right, I think we're ready to put this together. See, it turned out pretty good. Just kind of put some matte black paint on it, so that'll sit right there. We've got our rubber piece behind it. So it's got that kind of shoved in there in all the places. Fits quite nicely. And I cut, I may need to cut it wider. I don't know, but I'm going to start there. So that'll sit there. It's going to look so much better than what was there before, which was this. All right, so let's jump underneath and see what we're going to need to do to get this thing back installed. So here we go. Lazarette. We get to jump down in here and hope we have enough light. Alright, so get down in there. So see this right here and this one. So it sits right between these two. So this is our intake. So we can pull in water from the bilge inside the boat. And this is going to push it. So when it pushes through, it pushes out this side. And then you can see it's going to go right up in there. All right, so let me get those two things put together. It just has these little little clasp guys here. I'll just kind of bring them back up to the front of the pipe a little bit so I can get to it easy. And there you go. There's one there. There's one right there. All right, let's get the guzzler and get it put in there, and then I'll get it put in place. All right, one last thing before we do this. Make sure you have a flathead screwdriver, or at least check what the head is on those pipe. I think they're called pipe clasp. I probably had that wrong. The other thing to pay attention to is on your pump, you have an inlet and you have an outlet. So pay attention to that, because remember when we rebuilt it, we put in the little flip valves in a different direction on this side than that side, so that water would only flow in that direction out. All right, so if you put it in backwards, you're going to take it out and put it back in. Okay, I want to make sure that was talked about real fast. Here it goes. Okay, so we have it in there. You can kind of see. I have it in place. So I had, like I said, I took the control panel out so that I could actually stick my hand in here and hold it, because you can see how it's there, but I'm going to need to hold it in place so I can have the other hand to hold this in place and be able to see through that hole and put that screw, 4 of those screws in, and see if it works. Okay, try it.